$300 trillion. That is the approximate total global debt, governments, corporations, and households combined. To put that in perspective, that is more than 3 times the economic output of the entire human race. But here is the paradox that keeps economists awake at night. If the world owes $300 trillion, who do we owe it to? If Earth is in debt, are we borrowing from Mars? Is there a galactic bank manager waiting to foreclose on the planet? The answer is baffling, terrifying, and strangely reassuring. To understand who owns the world today, we have to understand how we turned money into debt. We have to peel back the layers of the global economy. We have to find out who holds the leash. And to do that, we have to go back. Before Wall Street, before the Federal Reserve. Back to a time when charging interest wasn't just a business strategy, it was a mortal sin. In the early Middle Ages, the concept of finance was paralyzed by popular belief. Usury, the act of lending money at interest, was forbidden. Money was seen as sterile. It couldn't breed more money. But then came the Crusades. Knights needed to travel from Europe to Jerusalem. Carrying chests of gold was a death sentence thanks to bandits. Enter the Knights Templar. They created the world's first multinational ATM network. You could drop gold at a temple in London, get a coded piece of paper, travel to Jerusalem, and withdraw your funds. They disconnected value from physical stuff. This was the moment money became information. By the Renaissance, the Italians perfected the system. Families like the Medicis realized that if you call it interest, you go to hell. But if you call it a fee for risk, you become rich. They did business on a wooden bench, known in Italian as a banca. When a banker ran out of money and couldn't pay his debts, the angry mob would smash his bench, bancarotta, broken bench, or as we know it today, bankruptcy. Private banking was one thing, but the real explosion of debt began with the nation-state. Why? Because kings were involved in war, and war is expensive. In 1694, England needed to rebuild its navy to fight France, but the king was broke. So a group of merchants made him a deal. They would loan him £1.2 million in gold. In exchange, the king gave them the exclusive right to print paper notes representing that gold. This was the birth of the central bank. It created a cycle. The government issues a bond, an IOU, the bank buys it, and cash is created. And this is key. The moment a king borrows money, he answers to the lender. In the 19th century, the wealthy families famously utilized government debt to influence wars and politics across Europe. As Mayor Amsho Rothschild is often quoted, "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws." Fast forward to 1971, President Richard Nixon takes the US dollar off the gold standard. Suddenly, money wasn't backed by gold, it was backed by debt. Every dollar in your pocket represents a debt owed by the government to the Federal Reserve. If we paid off all the debt in the world, there would be no money left in circulation. Okay, history lesson over. Let's look at the $300 trillion elephant in the room. Who holds the paper? Take, for example, the US. People often think China owns all of America's debt. It's a popular headline. And yes, foreign nations like Japan and China own trillions in US Treasury bonds. They do this to stabilize their own currencies and store their trade profits. What about the oil-rich nations? In 1974, the U.S. struck a deal with Saudi Arabia. The U.S. would provide military protection and weapons. In exchange, the Saudis would price all their oil in U.S. dollars. This created the Petrodollar recycling system. The Gulf nations, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, sold oil and made trillions of dollars. But they couldn't spend it all in the desert. They needed a safe place to store it. So they bought U.S. government debt, treasury bonds. Combined, these oil-rich nations hold trillions in global debt and assets. But foreign governments only own about 20 to 25% of U.S. national debt. So who owns the rest? The call is coming from inside the house. Mutual funds, pension funds, insurance companies. If you have a retirement plan, a savings account, or life insurance, you own the debt. Your bank takes your savings and buys government debt to earn safe interest. In a weird twist of irony, the taxpayers owe the money to the taxpayers. But there is a third player, the biggest whale in the ocean, the central banks themselves. Since the 2008 crash and the 2020 pandemic, central banks have been buying their own government's debt to keep the economy alive. This is called quantitative easing. It's essentially the government writing a check to itself. And then there is the shadow banking sector. Hedge funds, asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard. They trade debt like baseball cards. They package your mortgage, your credit card debt, and your student loans into complex derivatives. This is where it gets complicated. These debts are sold and resold so many times that sometimes nobody actually knows who owns the original IOU. So, who owns the world's debt? Japan? China? The Federal Reserve? BlackRock? The answer is everyone and no one. The global economy is a massive circle of promises. I promise to pay you so you can pay him so he can pay me. The owner of the debt isn't as important as the belief that the debt will be paid. The moment that belief vanishes, the moment we stop trusting the promise, the bench doesn't just break, the whole building collapses. We are all legally bound to one another in a massive web of promises. The world doesn't owe this money to Mars. We owe it to ourselves. But this reveals the fragile truth about money. Debt is a claim on future energy. It's a promise that tomorrow we will work hard enough to pay for today. The system works as long as we all believe the promise will be kept. Let's just hope we're good for the money.
If you like this video, clicking the like button helps us out. We really appreciate it. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. But, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.